Hello everyone. I just wanted to create a quick video just recapping our group meetings from this week. For those of you who are unable to attend, but also for you that were there were some follow-on and some tools that we discussed during our group together. So the first question I sort of asked everyone was, what are you excited about in this 14 weeks together, or for our non-contact people during this 6 to 7 weeks together? And I compiled all the results into what's called a Wordle. So Wordle is a free online tool where you can put in blocks of text and it will create these interesting word art pieces for you. And with Wordle, the bigger a word is, the more often it was in the group of text. So when I asked you what you're excited about, the excitement was basically around learning new skills and trying out these new tools. People were also excited about, just sort of getting this project started. They've been talking about it in their department for a while. They'd like to move forward, getting it done, just experiencing online learning, more interesting content, something unique and new, some new material, new tools, revamping. One person was very excited about the cookies. As I said, we will always have some type of treat for you. And then the next question I asked, what's the opposite of that, and what are you apprehensive about? And again, I compiled this, so again, the bigger it is, the more often it was stated. So some people were concerned about, how do I test online? How do I move my activities from the classroom to online? Some pressure from their dean. How do I stay away from focusing just on the lower order blooms? Coordination of some speakers they'd like to have. Creating videos was mentioned several times. Just the time it takes to do this. And then the big overarching one right here is that they're most concerned that you have is not getting it done. So when I look at this, I look at, well, how can I help in this? And the biggest one being not getting it done is, well, we have the milestones document to sort of move you along. I'm here, Mark's here, Greg, Alyssa, we're all here for you, as well as we will always have what we're doing week to week, as well as our online information to keep trying to move you forward. Again, if you didn't request the template, that can be a big time saver, so let me know if you are interested in that. So in our Wednesday group, we did get to this concept, but we didn't in our Monday group. So for the Wednesday group, this could be a recap for you, or you can just fast forward to the next section. But for the Monday group, I just wanted to touch on this idea of the learning-centered environment. And attached with this email, there'll be some additional documents. But when we're looking at what makes a good online course, what it always comes back to is how learning-centered it is. And I'm not talking about learner-centered, it's not student-centered. It's moving the learning to the center. And there's four main concepts in this theory, and that is, what is the function of the content, what is the role of the teacher, what is the responsibility for learning, and what is the processes and purpose of evaluation. So if we start up here on the function of content, so when we're talking about from here, so from this to that, we're talking about more teacher-centered or more content-focused and moving towards learning-centered. And it'll make more sense if you do take a look at that, those resources I'll be sending along. But when we're looking at, okay, what is the purpose of all this content? We have all this material to cover. So we're moving away from knowledge transmission, so the traditional lecture, me standing at the front of the room, delivering this material to you in some fashion, to knowledge construction. So that's getting the students to do things. When you're looking at online, if it's just the students watching you lecturing or reading your PowerPoints, it's very, very difficult for them to really get into a deeper level of learning. But when you're asking them to do things like what Greg was talking about, when you're asking them to participate in discussions or blogs or construct their own knowledge in a way that you can assess, the content becomes more meaningful for them. Moving over to the role of the teacher, which I think is the biggest change when we're looking at online, is we're moving from instruction to student learning. So the saying that we hear a lot with online learning is that you have to move away from the sage on the stage to the guide on the side. And that's just because as your role of the teacher, you're just physically not there anymore. You're not there coordinating, you're not there lecturing. You've been basically removed from the situation in a way, and now your job is to guide them through the materials that you prepare for them. So use of this content, and now you're guiding them through it. And you're moving away from, when you're planning your lessons for in class, you may think to yourself, okay, how am I going to teach this? What am I going to do? And you have to move to, how are they going to learn this? What are they going to do? So again, that's the biggest change when we look at face-to-face and online is really, what is my role as the teacher, and how can I still be that guide, but I'm no longer sort of the center of this. When we're looking at responsibility for learning, it moves from one-sided to shared. So one-sided is that I'm the teacher. Without me, you'll never learn this material. It's a shared responsibility. And you'll see these start to overlap. So if I, as a student, have to construct my own knowledge, I have to do the work, well, I will have more responsibility in my learning. And the last one is the processes and purposes of evaluation. So what it says here is it's moving from fragmented to integrated. So if you think of a course in your own learning career where you found that you didn't really understand, the evaluation of it. You had a few sort of sporadic tests, an assignment due at the end, and they didn't build on each other. The feedback from one didn't really help you with the other. We're trying to move away from that and have a more integrated approach. Along with this is the integrated learning design theory, and that's also going to be in the materials in this week. And what it states is, here's your learning goals. I know you can't read this, but you will be able to in the package. But you have your learning goals at the top. You have your teaching and learning activities. So what am I doing? What are my students doing? And then you have your feedback and assessment. And when your learning goals line up with what you're doing in class, what your students are doing, and then that lines up with what you're assessing. So when we look at online, what I said in our Wednesday group is this teaching and learning activities and feedback and assessment, they get closer and closer together. Because if we want to motivate our students, if we want to show them what's important, what areas to focus on, we do need to put marks behind it. And we can think, well, all the students care about is marks, or we can think that we're showing them what the important pieces are. If you as an adult have taken online learning of some kind, either formal or informal, we may have the best of intentions of doing all the optional activities, but usually you can time manage yourself right out of that. We're all busy, our students are busy. So these get closer and closer together, so you really want to make sure you are lining up with your course outcomes and objectives. Okay, so there is more material on that, but I did go over that on Wednesday, so I wanted to make sure I went over it for our Monday group. But we'll come back and touch on this several times throughout our time together. And for those of you taking the Design for Online Learning series, this will be a recap because we do spend a full day on this one. Okay, and then we had Greg, and Greg talked about active learning and some different tools you can use to get your students doing things. So again, moving away from what am I going to do, how am I going to teach this, to what are they going to do, how are they going to learn that. And he showed us Coggle. So Coggle is an interactive way of making mind maps. And as I said in both groups, we don't have a mind map feature within Blackboard. So this is, if you like using mind maps, you use them in your face-to-face class. This is a really nice way. Multiple people can be working on this at once, creating these as complicated or simple mind maps as you'd like. The next one was Google Docs, and that's when you have basically, it's like a Word document, but multiple people can be editing it. So as I said, this is sort of similar to the wiki, but multiple people can be working on it at once. The next one is YouTube Capture. So this is where you can very simply from your webcam or from your iPhone or from any of your smart devices, you can record yourself and very quickly get that available to your students. And the last one he showed us was this after photo. So that was the one where you can click on a picture and you could write some text and then you can save it in multiple ways, and then students could also do this and upload it right to you. So that's what we did in class for this week. So coming up next week, we have the same times, Monday 3 to 5, Wednesday 12 to 2. We're in M335 like we were this week. We found out we won't be in there after the end of June. The science camps take over. So we will get a new room, but I don't know what that is yet. So next week is Alyssa, and she'll be going over Blackboard features that are especially important to you teaching online. And bring your laptop because you will be working in your dev shells. If you don't have a laptop available to you, please let me know and we can have them there for you on the day that you will be attending. All right, well, I kept it under 10 minutes, and I will see some of you on Monday and some of you on Wednesday. And oh, and I just wanted to mention we have our first non-contact person going through their first 2-week check. So that's happening this week, which is very exciting. And we'll see you next week. Thanks.